Hello, hello, everybody. How are you doing today? It is 3:01 p.m. here in Cary, North Carolina, and I am super excited to have everybody here. I hope that you can see the first slide, and I am going to go ahead and put everybody on Q&A mode,
All
which means that you can.
attendees are muted and may unmute themselves by pressing star 6.
I don't know if you just heard that telling me that anybody can unmute themselves at any time to ask me a question if you like. So please feel free to stop me because sometimes when I get going, it's kind of like a runaway train. And I do try to be mindful of that fact. So today's presentation is on how to create a brand that keeps your clients happily paying top dollar. And to me, it's important that um, we take good care of our clients and that we really make them feel appreciated and valued and wanted because that keeps them coming back for more. What's more valuable than that, though, is actually that they will then refer you to their friends. And it's that word of mouth referral that is super powerful in almost any business to keep your business going and grow it significantly. I'm Haley Lynn Gray. I am an MBA. I graduated from Duke in 2012, and I was part of the Weekend Executive Program. I'm a CSA, which is a Certified Senior Advisor, because of my home care and senior placement businesses. I'm a CEO. I own several businesses and run them very actively. A business coach, owner of 4 businesses. I also do real estate investment in addition to the Leadership Girl, Extension of You, Care Patrol, and I'm a best-selling author. I've been a best-selling author twice. So I know what it's like to go through the pain of giving birth to a book. And also, I'm a mom to 4 kids, aged 17, 14, 12, and 8, and a taxi cab driver and chief bottle washer. Um, my life is certainly very busy and hectic, and it is very much a choice of figuring out exactly how I'm going to spend my time and making sure that I'm making the best possible choices with my time um, as I go about my day, because there are more demands on me than I can shake a stick at, and really that building that business has to be a focus, and the time and the dedication and the energy have to be there, but it has to be done meaningfully and it has to be done with a great deal of focus. Um, so, what your brand says about you to the world is very important. Um, you project a lot of things about your brand, and it tells your clients many things about you, whether you want it to or not. Um, are you a Jimmy Choo kind of brand, i.e., the luxury brand goods or Gucci or Coco Chanel, or are you a Walmart? And the way that you present yourself in every aspect of your business, not just the logo, will be what tells the client who you are and how they should value you. Are you the economy mass producer of goods, or are you the high-end producer of luxury goods? And you have to decide which way your brand goes, or are you somewhere in between? And you have to make that decision. Obviously, if you were to look at Walmart's brand and say Coco Chanel, you really wouldn't be able to tell much one way or the other which one was the luxury brand and which one was the super economy brand. So if you, the logo alone is not enough to tell you which one is which. You need to know also if you are rustic or sophisticated. Imagine that you walk into Whole Foods or Fresh Market. Both of them have flowers gorgeously displayed in front, and a lot of times they have chalkboards with the handwritten chalk written on them, and everything is intentionally looks a little bit rustic around the edges and a little bit homey. And that is air and that ambiance that they're cultivating to let you think that it's just that little bit of rustic and golly gee whiz, fresh from the farm goodness, and they want you to spend your money there. So they cultivate that brand, that image, that interaction with the customer that shows them who they are. I'll take it a little step further. Have you noticed that in those high-end grocery stores, you typically don't get plastic bags, they give you paper bags instead. And part of the reason that they do that is to cultivate that brand image of who they are and what they're doing. So think about that. They're expensive, they're high-end, everything is just so. Their flowers are presented just as you're walking in. The fruits and the vegetables are stacked just so. And it makes you want to go out and buy stuff from them. Contrast that with going into Walmart. You may see boxes stacked in the aisle, the ceilings are unfinished, the lighting is all fluorescent, things are painted utilitarian gray everywhere. Everything is good, plentiful, completely adequate, and that's what they're aiming to provide. Good, plentiful, lots of stuff, and they're moving it out in great volume. And they don't really care if you happen to see a pallet sitting in the middle of the floor. But one of these more high-end stores, absolutely, you're not going to see that same kind of thing there. Coco Chanel would be absolutely horrified if you were to walk into those stores and see a pallet of shoes sitting there. That absolutely, under no circumstances, would ever happen. So think about your brand and your company and what kind of brand you are projecting to the world and what kind of brand and ambiance and feelings you're trying to evoke in your end user. And that's how you should be crafting your brand. I'm going to give you some simple tips today that kind of go around crafting that brand, but realize that branding is everything you do that interacts with a customer in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So it is every point of contact that you have with a customer. So whether it's your stationery, whether it is the way that your phone is answered, it is your follow-up messages, it is your verbiage that you use on your business cards, it is the paper and the weight of the thickness of your business cards, it is how your website looks. It is how you craft your messages on Facebook and social media. It is every single little thing that you do that in any way comes into contact with your end user and with your ideal client and your customers. So think of that when you're thinking of your brand as thinking, okay, am I being completely consistent? And am I giving them that feeling that I want them to have, as opposed to accidentally dropping the ball in several various places where they're going to notice and they're going to think things are maybe a little bit inconsistent. You want to give them a very consistent experience. Think about McDonald's. When you go into McDonald's, you know exactly what you're going to get. Whether you go to McDonald's in North Carolina or you go to McDonald's in Oregon, you know that you're going to get the same chicken nuggets and the same French fries and the same kind of drink, and that the food is always going to be consistent flavor, texture, temperature, and that if you're ordering a chicken nugget Happy Meal, you know exactly what you're going to get. So think about that when you are delivering your products and your services, that you want to give that consistency and that the client is going to know exactly what to expect from you in your brand. So the first tip that I'm going to share with you today to really make things a little bit more luxury and have your clients coming back for more is to choose some stationery and really focus on writing thank you notes. People react very positively to handwritten thank you notes. I know that this seems like it's something that's outdated and nobody wants it, and why in the world should I bother? And I can give you an example here. I have people in the home care industry and senior placement industry that I interact with on a regular basis. And after particularly significant meetings or they give me referrals, I handwrite them thank you notes. And I put it on stationery that is actually handmade cards that are made by a friend of mine here locally. So I'm also supporting the local economy as well. And I choose beautiful thank you notes. It turns out that the people that I send those thank you notes to actually take those thank you notes and they will display them in their office. So I've got them right there because they're looking at that beautiful thank you note that I sent them. They're appreciating it and they're looking at it and thinking of me every single time they see that thank you note. And that is my goal that has been achieved. Now, I'll give you some tips. You actually should use very nice stationery, but it doesn't really require your logo. It's actually better that you don't put your logo on any kind of thank you notes that you send to clients or customers. The reason for that is that they're going to look at your letter that you have sent them and they're going to see it and they're going to be so thrilled that you sent them a thank you note. If you send it to them with your logo on the front or you put a business card inside, it sort of negates that feeling and that personal touch that you created with sending the thank you note in the first place. So one of my tips here is that you actually do not enclose a business card when you send a thank you note to somebody. I know that it seems a little bit counterintuitive, but if you are trying to give somebody business cards, send those to them in a separate note, a separate letter, a separate envelope. Don't include it in your thank you note. And that will give your brand that little bit of touch of luxury, and people are really going to appreciate the thoughtfulness that goes with it. Keep the personal gratitude and the brand gratitude separate from the, okay, so here's my business cards if you would like to hand them out to somebody later. The other thing I'm going to point out here is that writing the cards by hand is a requirement. Everybody can tell if you went online and you chose a card that is produced by a computer. Now, we had some experience in one of my companies, and I see Andrea online, and she'll laugh when I say this. We used send out cards for a while for our Care Patrol franchise. And what we discovered is that a lot of the cards come back, and we would look at the cards and it's like, oh, they're obviously machine written. And no matter how nice the sentiment you're trying to convey is, it looks clearly machine written. So even if you have to hire somebody and pay them $10 an hour to sit there and write your thank you notes for you so that you can sign them, it is better than sending out something that is machine written. People just don't really seem to appreciate the sentiment between sending that they get in a machine done card. Save yourself the aggravation and handwrite those cards and send them out, even if you have to have a VA that does it for you. And that's really a lot about that interaction with your customers. So thinking about what you're doing every single time that you are interacting with your customers. Tip 2, I know that this one's going to seem silly. Address your clients by name every single time. Even if you have a class of 100 people that you're working with and there's 100 of them, make sure that you get to know each and every single one by name and personality. Have them send you a note at the beginning of the class and tell you who they are and what they are and what's important to them. That will help you get out there and get to know the people that you're working with, and they will be completely flattered that you took the time to remember who they are. Now, I'm going to give you a tip here. If there's 100 people or a bazillion different clients, one of the things you can do is actually program this information into your cell phone. And you can put in their name, their phone number, and under company information, you can put a quick phrase to help you jog your memory about them. And then down below in the notes, put down, okay, well, this person did this, 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 and this. And they have 4 kids and 2 dogs and 3 cats. And the kids are very into soccer and the daughter is into dance. And make sure that you make those little notes about their things that are important to them personally, and keep that either in your phone or in your address book on your computer, so that when you're addressing them and you're responding back to them by email, you can refer back to those notes. It's critical in business, especially if you're trying to create a premium experience for your clients, that you be addressing them by name and that you really focus on their experience and on themselves. People like to hear their names, and they like to get questions about their family and how everybody's doing. They like to know that you are taking a personal interest in them as things are going forward. So do this for yourself and you will grow your business exponentially. Tip 3. This one is more on your online presentation and in your emails. Use consistent fonts. Always use the same 2 to 3 fonts for your brand. I know that some of you have seen my graphics online. I always use the same colors, the same fonts, and you know if I'm posting something that it's from me because you can see it. There are other people out there that are absolutely phenomenal at branding. Sarah Little is one of them. You see her photo every single time, and you see that same font that she uses on every single one of her online graphics. Her emails are also exactly the same. You know when you're getting something from her that it's always going to be consistently the same, and that she's creating that luxury brand and that environment of drawing you in because she cares about you, she knows who you are, and she also has that kind of consistent look and feeling of what she's doing. If you're using photos of yourself, one of the recommendations that I have is that you use a consistent set of photos of yourself. You can actually use a couple of different photos in a couple of different environments, but don't be using dozens and dozens of photos over a very short period of time. Obviously, you'll update your photos eventually and you'll get new ones, but at any given point in time, you should really have a handful of pictures of yourself that you use for marketing. Now, this may sound kind of silly, but people see the representation of you online and they identify you as who they see in the photo. So if you're constantly changing that photo, they're not necessarily going to be able to recognize who you are because your photo is changed, so that facial recognition isn't quite the same. Now, obviously in videos, you're going to look a little different every time, and that's okay. But for the photo presentation, so for your webinars, your online graphics, emails, you name it, you want to make sure that you're using a consistent set of photos. Your profiles online should be consistent so that people can look at it and go, oh yeah, yes, I recognize that that's Haley, or that's Andrea, or that's Susan, or that's Alla, and I know exactly who that person is. I will say another thing that you should do is that too many fonts really confuse your users. Too many colors, too many fonts, it starts to look like a rumpus room. The other thing too is that people want to have a consistent look and feel with your brand. So you know if I'm going to post a graphic that it's going to be a particular font and it's going to be a particular type of graphic and a particular type of quote, and that those are consistent. Now, I'm not going to say that everybody isn't going to get completely sick of the color turquoise. However, you know when you see one of those graphics and you see it somewhere on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, you name it, that graphic came from me. That particular shade of turquoise is consistent with my brand, and you know when you see it that it's me. There is no denying that that is my brand, and there is that instant recognition that people start to have for that quote and that information that's included with that. And it also makes you stop and think about, oh, okay, I know who this is, rather than using different graphics and different colors every single time, which may certainly get a lot less boring for you, but it also sets your end user up for a lot more confusion, and it doesn't allow them to bond directly to your brand. Okay, tip 4, add in little bonuses or extras. And under promise and over deliver. And I have the worst time trying to say that. Susan's probably laughing somewhere when she hears me say under promise and over deliver. What I mean by adding in little bonuses or extras. Have you ever taken an online course where the online host throws in an extra download or some extra materials or some extra information? Those are the kinds of things I'm referring to. If you have a brick and mortar business, it's easy to throw in little bonuses or extras that will make people smile, and they don't have to cost you a lot of money. One example I can give you is when we had our kitchen redone. When we were done having it, everything was finished, they were done tearing my whole house apart, we actually got a little gift bag with some food, a little basket, you know, that wasn't terribly expensive, from the company that had done the whole remodel. It was hugely appreciated, and it's been 10 years since I redid my kitchen, so obviously I remember the fact that we got that little bonus at the end, and it made me smile. I've noticed that there are a lot of little industries where you can send those little thank yous, little cards, little gifts, little extras to people, and they really sit up and notice it. Even if it's something as simple as calling your clients on their birthdays and wishing them a happy birthday, that's a little touch of extra that you can offer that's going to make people smile, and it's going to make them happy, and it's going to make them remember you, because the key is they have to be able to remember you. So little bonuses, little extras, little touches of detail. Another example of this would be when you go to a store and you buy some, excuse me, buy some clothing, and think of, you know, when you're buying, say, luxury brand clothing. They wrap your clothes in tissue and put a little sticker on the outside. It's just a little tiny bit of luxury. It probably costs them less than 10 cents to do that. But gosh, don't you like to open that bag up and have that tissue and be able to break into that tissue like it's a little gift that you just bought yourself? Think about that when you're thinking about your brand and how you're going to present that, your products and your services, to your end user, and think about what things you can do to make them smile. And that will have them coming back for more, because people like businesses that solve problems, cure their pain, or make them extremely happy. And if you can do all of the above, then you are going to be golden. Tip 5. This one is a little bit counterintuitive, and it's one of my favorites, because it gives you a lot of information, but it also increases your client satisfaction, and it also improves client perception of your brand. Survey your current clients on their satisfaction. Call them up, or have somebody else, a third party, call them up, and, you know, let the client know that you are surveying them to know how things went. Or you can even send out an email survey and ask how things are going. Ask how things went, what their satisfaction was with the product or services, and ask if there's anything else that you can do to improve their satisfaction. You'll be amazed at how much happier it makes them just to be able to tell you that they're happy or they're not happy. And most of the time, it will actually improve their satisfaction, even if they were moderately okay with what you were doing. Just the fact that you checked up on them and looked to see how they're doing, what they're doing, and what they need will greatly increase that perception of your brand. The other bit of information here is that you're actually getting feedback on your brand and your perception of your brand through your clients. That's good too, because you need to know where things are going well and where they're not. Especially if things aren't quite going the way you want them to and you're not getting the results that you're looking to see. The feedback that you get through a satisfaction survey may give you information that helps you decide where to address and put your energy and target it so that you can increase that customer satisfaction and improve the overall experience that your client is having. It's all about making sure that the client is getting a good level of customer satisfaction and that you're meeting their expectations consistently. And I know that I use that word consistency a lot, and it is so critical to business. Tip 6, ask your clients to come back for more. If you don't ask, you don't get. Also, make sure that you let your clients know and your customers know what other services and products you offer, and ask them if they'd like to sign up for those offers. If you don't ask them, they're not going to come back for more. I always laugh during Girl Scout cookie season because my whole house is nothing but Girl Scout cookie season for 2 months out of the year. And we get a lot of people who buy their first round of cookies when the cookie sale first begins, and then they buy another round of cookies a couple of weeks in, and they keep buying round after round after round of cookies. Well, part of the reason that they're buying round after round after round of cookies is that I actually will set timers, because I know based on that individual client's preferences how often they like to buy cookies and how often I can hit them up for cookie sales. And then we also make sure that we hit them up right just before the end of the sale and let them know, oh, by the way, we're getting ready to be done. Would you like to stock up and put cookies in your freezer? They frequently will buy a few boxes of cookies to put in their freezer because Girl Scout cookie people and people who like their Thin Mints are a little bit like drug addicts at times, and they will buy lots and lots of cookies. So how do you get to the point of getting your clients to become that same kind of raving fan of your business? And that's because the client is going to know what to expect from the service. They're going to know what to expect in the box. And you're going to go back and ask them for more. And the more you ask your current clients to come back for more, the more that they're likely to get. If you don't ask, they're not going to. I know that I am chief and the worst offender sometimes, that I'll find somebody that I like and I'll go to them a couple of times and then maybe I'll drift off in some other direction and I'll kind of forget about somebody I was with. If they don't remind me who they are, even though I had a really good experience with them, I may not come back for more unless they tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, come back for more. An easy way that you can do that is obviously by building your email lists and by building your targeting ads on Facebook. But you can do it in a lot of ways, just by calling them and asking them, texting, you name it, anything you can do to ask the client to come back for more, or remind them to bring in their car for another tune-up and that it's time for another oil change. That will increase your customer satisfaction, increase the perception of your brand, and people appreciate being reminded when they need to do things rather than just floating off into the ether sphere. I know I've done this to myself a number of times. So that concludes the information that I have for today. What questions do you have for me? Anybody? Raise your hands. You can unmute yourself.
Haley, I have a question.
Sure.
Earlier you were talking about surveying your customers.
Mhm.
When you do that, the question that you ask, should it be open-ended or very specific?
Both. It's actually good to get people to rate you on a scale But then you should also ask them open-ended questions that can't be answered with a simple yes or no. You can ask them, are you happy? And they're going to say yes. And then you can say, okay, so what things can I do to improve my service? Nothing. Okay, that was really helpful. So then you go on and say, okay, so we're offering you this service here, and it provides these things. What features do you like about it? Or what are your favorite parts of this? And what things do you not like? And I think a lot of times people will tell you, oh, things are good, blah, 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 blah. And sometimes you may actually get more of the negative type of feedback on that, that they're happier to answer the I don't like this, or in some ways you can kind of flip it on its head. It just depends on the personality of the people you're dealing with and the way that you answer or ask the questions. There is SurveyMonkey out there, and they actually have a huge help section on different ways to ask questions to get different types of answers and to like jog people's brains. The order that you ask the questions in is actually important because it will influence the way that people answer the rest of the questions. So I will say that there's a huge amount of science behind it, but if you can ask people a variety of questions that are both open and closed-ended and not just simple yes/no questions that, you know, perhaps give us a rating of 1 to 10 on these things, and then ask them a couple of open-ended questions is probably your best bet.
That was very thorough. Thanks. A lot more information than I was expecting.
Oh.
Thank you.
A walking font of absolutely useless information at times.
I wouldn't say that.
So does anybody else have any questions? Anybody else I can help with stuff? If not, I want to tell you guys thank you. It is 3:33, which is my favorite time of the day. And it's a perfect number, so make a wish while you're at it. And I'm going to wish everybody a wonderful rest of the day. And I hope that you are having a fantastic rest of the week and that it's hugely productive. Let me know online or text me, message me, and let me know what other questions I can answer for you or help you out with. I wish you a great day. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.